Good evening, people. How you doing? Hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. We're back again to do some more transfer news, which, to be fair, at the moment is hotting up. Every single day, I start to look at my phone. I'm looking at the TV. I'm looking at Sky Sports, and there's more news and more drama. Arsenal being one of the teams that have been quite busy, to be fair. Spurs we're seeing now coming in. Man United linked with players. Chelsea in their team to go mad. Man City looking like they're going to get viral. Wow, there's so much going on. But I thought I'd bring an old face, but a regular face. Liam, what are you saying, bro?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, man. I'm not too bad. Yourself?
I'm very well, man. It's good to see you again because obviously with Southampton being relegated, I was like, how long can me and Liam chat for? But seeing as we're going to be talking about one of your players today, Lavia, I thought I'd bring you on, and it's a pleasure to have you on, bro.
No, thank you very much. Always a pleasure coming on with you, Dan.
Cheers, man. Appreciate that. Listen, let's get into it before we start talking, Lavia, because obviously Southampton, when you go down, um, all your players look like they're leaving. Now, the good thing about Southampton, I suppose, is that you've got your business with Russell Martin sorted, and that's a really good appointment. I know that you said last time you're really happy. You're really happy with that, bro. And fair play to you. I can see why, because you know what he's done previously. I think it is a good appointment. I think it's a matter of who's going to stay at Southampton, though. There's going to be some names that are being linked with moves. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of those because I think that actually Southampton have got more quality than people have given them credit for. Because when the three teams went down, people were talking about Leeds and Leicester players, but I'd argue to say that Southampton actually have some players with the highest potential. So I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the rumours that you've heard from outgoings at your club and how many Premier League clubs you think will come and nab some of your players now you're down in the Championship, mate.
Yeah, so it's been quite difficult. I think we're being very stubborn as a club with our players. We're not letting our players go very easily. We've set price tags and we're not budging under any of them. And at the end of the day, if Premier League clubs want our players, and they're gonna have to pay the money that we want. And yeah, obviously Lavia being linked with Liverpool, Newcastle, and Arsenal as yourself. Tino being linked with Arsenal and a move back to Chelsea. Obviously, Prowsey being linked with a move to the Premier League with West Ham, Brentford, Fulham. So we're being stubborn. We're relaxed. We don't have to sell on these players to make money because I think a lot of us Saints fans said we'd rather hang on to these players than and forget about investing into the market. Maybe keep these players and invest into a few. But the only reason we'd have to touch the market is if we do sell these players. But I don't think many of us are bothered. As long as they're committed to stay, then we're all good.
So let me throw a few names here, and I want you to mark out of 10 the likelihood of them leaving Southampton, right? 10 being they're definitely 100% off, and 1 being, no, I think they're staying, right? So we'll start with James Ward-Prowse.
7. I'm not too sure. I have a gut feeling that he might stay, but I think as soon as West Ham sell Declan Rice, I do think Ward-Prowse will probably be the first player they'll be bidding for. But I'm not too sure what other clubs will go in for him. But I think I'd say maybe a 6, 7 that he probably leave. But I think our Saints fans are kind of thinking that he might say because he's a very professional player. He'll work his socks off until the day that he does leave, and I think we'll be gutted. But I think it's been coming for a long time. But I don't know. You always have that bit of hope that he'll stay.
With Ward-Prowse, I want to ask you because there's a lot of fans I speak to take his free kicks and set pieces away, and he wouldn't be all that. Is that harsh on James Ward-Prowse?
Uh, Yeah, but no, I do definitely understand where they're coming from. But then, if you don't watch Southampton week in and week out, then you're not going to know what type of player James Ward-Prowse is.
Yeah.
Yes, he does have a fantastic set piece and a fantastic cross, but he's also a work machine. He has the highest running stats of any Premier League player each year. He's Mr. Consistent. He plays 38 games a season plus competition stuff like that. So that's worth every penny for you. And yeah, I mean, if you do play under positive manager, he does give you positive play. But unfortunately, he's broken his neck for us for the last few years under Ralph Hasenhüttl, and then since we kind of lost Ralph, James hasn't really been the same player because Ralph was the manager who brought him to life, really. So I think if you can get him under a good manager, then he'll give any side a good team. You've just got to give him the license to be able to pass and not give him the midfielders where with us when Lavia was injured, James Ward-Prowse was having to do the defensive work, the passing, the running, whereas Lavia
Mm.
was the key to our midfield when it was going well, and he allowed Ward-Prowse kind of just do what he wanted. So yeah, I mean people can say that, but as a Saints fan, I'm never going to agree with that.
Of course, man. Yeah, and I get that. And back your player, innit? Like, if he goes, what's the price tag?
40 million, I think they're saying. Nothing. I think that's a good price, to be honest. He's still got like 2-3 years left on his deal. He's Premier League proven. He's at a good age. He's 28. He's still got at least 6 years in him. Yeah, I mean, I think if any club doesn't want to pay it, then don't pay it. He won't leave. At the end of the day, it doesn't bother us Saints fans. If you don't want to pay it, fine. Find my ass, we'll keep him. I mean,
Yeah, man. You know, he's flirting with England. He's been around. He's Premier League proven. I can see why Saints want to hold out for that much money, man. I think that's fair. The next player I want to talk to you about is Kyle Walker-Peters. What rating are you giving that of him staying or going?
see, he hasn't been linked with any clubs as of yet, but I do think in NA, I think there are a lot of clubs in the Premier League where I look at where he would definitely suit. Any club really. He's versatile. He can play right back and left back. He's probably for a fullback. He's probably one of the best dribblers I've ever seen at the club. He's technically quality. If you put him in any decent side who plays free flowing football, then you've got yourself a cracking play. He's Premier League proven. I think Spurs probably regret selling him with the right backs that they've had. So I think he's a fantastic player if you get him in the right attitude.
I agree.
And
I
yeah,
agree.
I
I think
think
if West Ham are serious about getting players from Southampton, talk about Ward-Prowse. I think Walker-Peters would actually suit them as
he's only
well, if
got a
not
year.
better.
He's only got a year left on his deal as well. So I think 15 million. And I think I'm pretty sure we'll set the bid.
Yeah, I agree with that one. What about Bella Kotchap?
Probably I'd probably say a 7 as well. I think the only place I can really see him is going to Germany. He's been linked with Napoli recently with Kim and Jago, and obviously I know Napoli put in a bid for Kilman yesterday, but apparently they were interested in Better Koch as well. But the only place I can really see him going back to is Germany, especially if Gvardiol leaves for City. I know Leipzig have been interested, so
Yeah.
apparently he's got a release clause of 25 million. So yeah, again, if anyone wants to have him, then they've got to pay that fee. Otherwise, it's just not going to get accepted.
Yeah, man. Listen, you got to pay these money nowadays as well, and we've been debating about that for a few weeks. What about Che Adams? Because a lot of people talk about Che. I know Che's one of these guys who can score goals, but is he? If you keep him, I think he could do really well, man, in the Championship.
Yeah, it's a difficult one with Che. He's only got a year left on his deal. There haven't been any talks about extending it. Um, Problem is, we do have a lot of strikers in our squad, and I know we do want one. I know we've been linked with Chel Perel, but I doubt it's going to be very difficult for us to get any players from Swansea after what's happened with our Russell Martin. So I think he'll probably stay. But the only type of club I could see Che going to in the Premier League is probably something like Nottingham Forest or a newly promoted team. But I think he will stay because he's a pretty committed guy. He's put 100% in for the club. So I can see him most likely saying, so I'd probably say like a 5 or a 4 chance
Yeah,
of him
fair play,
leaving.
man. And the last one before we come to the obvious is this guy actually. Ridwan has put in Suleimana, insane dribbling. What do you think of this?
That's a difficult one as well. Suleiman has probably been one of the most exciting players I've watched for Saints. Just really hasn't had that end product and hasn't had that consistent run of games of playing in the right position for him. I do think if we can keep him in Championship as a winger or as like a 10 or up top, I think we'll have a real good chance of him scoring a good amount of goals, good assists. He's definitely a player who I look at and I think he's a Crystal Palace player. Yeah, I think obviously if Zaha's leaving, which it looks like he is going to like Lazio or Fenerbahce, and he's definitely a player I'd see it. Crystal Palace doing well. A lot of Premier League clubs I see him doing well. He's young, he's exciting. He one-on-one dribbling's fantastic. He's got to be a man like that. He's probably one of the quickest players I've ever seen play for us. Bit like a Sadio Mane gem, but it's whether you can get him scoring goals and assists, and that's probably the only thing he's got bad about his game. But I do think there is a chance of keeping him, but that's whether Russell Martin can convince him to play Championship football.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's talk Lavia because he's a player that's been linked with a few clubs, mate. And I would say that if you was to rate this one to 10, it's probably a 10. He's gonna go, I believe. It's just a matter of where he goes, and for how much. I want to know about the player because there's a lot of people that saw this kid for Southampton and were speaking about him, but because of Southampton's season, weren't probably bigging him up as much as they should have. Because only reason I started watching this guy, one was because I looked at him to start with and thought, well, he's shining. But two, you are speaking to you weekly. You just kept mentioning how good he was and how great he looked and how he allowed everybody else to play moving forward. So talk to me about Romeo Lavia, the player, before we start to talk about where he could potentially go. What is somebody getting in this kid, man?
He honestly, I don't know hype him up this much, but I do feel like he's the next Rodri. This guy is probably one of the best technically gifted players I've ever seen play for my club. Honestly,
Wow.
I've seen him play for about he got injured for about 2 months, but I've seen him play for most of the season, and every game he's just the most composed on the pitch. Like honestly, you could trust him with the ball anywhere. Like playing that from the back, he's oozes class. He loves playing football, and he doesn't just ooze class, but he puts in 100%. He plays for that badge every week, and he's so classy. If you get him under a right manager, like you've seen how bad we've been this season, yeah, he's the best player every single week, and you know how much he cares. He's a very frustrated player, and any player for 50, getting you for 15 million is just an absolute gem. And he's only 19 years old, and he didn't even play in the Premier League before. He was just playing for the City under 23s, and obviously Joe Shields, who's now at Chelsea, obviously was with us and brought him in. He's been fantastic since day one. Honestly, I can't describe enough words to big up this play. He's just fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Fair play, man. Listen, it's exciting what you say there. Steve Reynolds has asked what price tag you put on him. You mentioned 50 million. Is that what you think? You know, do you think that's good? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's a fair price tag. If I was, the problem is if we weren't in the Championship, I'd be setting it a lot higher. Yeah, I mean, if we were still in the Premier League, I'd probably be saying 70 million. But now we're in the
Wow.
Championship, we gotta be realistic, and I still think 50 million is a great price tag considering. Yeah, I know Declan Rice is a fantastic player, but 105 million is quite a lot. I do think
Yeah,
that is
you can say that
a
again.
lot. It is a lot of English tags. You know what I mean? But I know people are like annoyed by that, but it is a true thing. I think Declan Rice is fantastic, but this kid just he runs games. If he's playing for Arsenal or Liverpool or wherever he's playing next year, he's fantastic. But the problem is he can play in a pivot, but the only way you're going to get the best out of him is you play him as that lone six because he's fantastic. He runs any game. His range of passing is fantastic, and the first thing he thinks about is passing forwards. I can't remember seeing the guy pass backwards or sideways. All he does is pickpockets, find sideways passes, well, sideways forward passes. He's he's just confidence, and even though how bad we've been this season, he's not lost an inch of confidence at all. And you think it'd bring a player like down like him, but his attitude is probably one of the best parts of his game because he's
Wow.
just always positive.
Mate, I agree with Ross Taylor in the chat. At the Emirates, he absolutely destroyed our midfield. I thought he was sensational. I
As
was
soon
so,
as soon
so
as he
impressed.
come off, as soon as he come off,
Yeah.
we
What was
bottled
he
it.
doing, by the way? How did he come off? I don't get that
I
at
don't.
all.
I
That made
honestly
no
don't know.
sense to
He
me.
must have. He must have been tired, but it was 87th minute. He come off and it was 3-1, and we drew 3-all. If he was still on the pitch, I'm confident we're winning that game 3-1.
Same, man. I'm confident that you're not conceding the goals you did, but I've been so impressed with this kid, and I know that Manchester City let him go, and obviously got Calvin Phillips in. I'd argue that actually it's probably the wrong decision. However, they've got I believe, a buyback clause or something that doesn't come into play until 2024. Liam, is that right?
Yeah, next summer. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see that one happening, obviously, and don't see Man City going in for him. I want to ask you, and I want you to forget I'm an Arsenal fan. I want you to concentrate on Lavia here. Like in your eyes, where is a good club for him to go? Do you think if you're like Romeo Lavia, you're looking at Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, all interested in you? I'm sure there's clubs abroad as well. Where are you going if you're Lavia?
Like the most, from my point of view, the most ideal club I'd like to see Lavia at is Arsenal. But the best pick for him personally is Liverpool. I don't. Fabinho's aging. He's been pretty poor this season, but with the way Klopp plays, with the energetic system, the putting your body on the line, it's perfect for him playing as that six with McAllister and I don't want to butcher his name from Leipzig, but um,
Sobozlai.
yeah, suppose I don't want to butcher his name or pronounce it wrong, but yeah, I think Liverpool is probably the perfect destination for him. Problem is, I would say Arsenal, but Declan Rice is taking his position of the way it's because you can't have a midfield with Rice and Lavia. It's got to be either one or the other.
See, it's interesting you say that because I actually do think that Liverpool is probably a great shout for him because, like you've just said, he's definitely going to improve on Fabinho, who has been an unbelievable player. This is no disrespect to Fabinho. He's been
Oh,
outstanding,
100%, hundred
like
percent.
absolutely. But he's done now, and Liverpool realise he's done. With Arsenal, Declan Rice, I believe, can play as the 8 or the 6. And I think if Lavia was holding and Declan Rice was next to him with Erdegaard in front, I think that's a superb midfield still. Like I'd be really happy with that.
Yeah,
And there's a lot
definitely,
of
definitely.
rumours, Liam, that Xhaka and Partey are both leaving. So we really do need this kid to come in because otherwise we're short. Now, Jorginho and El Neni, they're very honest players, Liam. I'm sure you'd want them at Southampton, right? But they're not the level that we want. Do you know what I mean?
No,
They're not the
no,
level that
no,
Arsenal
definitely.
want.
No, I do agree.
They're the squad players. And if we get an injury to Declan Rice, then Jorginho's coming back in at the moment. If we sell Xhaka and Partey, um, so it looks like Xhaka's going to be off to Bayern Leverkusen, which looks to be agreed. Thomas Partey, there's rumours about Saudi Arabia and Juventus. So this means that we need another centre midfielder. And if it's not going to be Caicedo, which looks like it's not going to be, um, there's other names mentioned. Now, Chalmini is one of them. I'd be very surprised if we get him from Real Madrid, but that would be an unbelievable signing. And the other one, of course, is Lavia, who I think is probably more realistic. They're talking 45 million to 50 million, 19 years old. Belgium, going to be a Belgium great. Like you say, I think he's going to be a top player, this kid. I really do like what I see. And when you watch people on YouTube and then they make it, if I watched Lavia on YouTube last year, I'd think, oh, yeah, Southampton have got Vieira here. What the hell's going on? Like, this is
Exactly,
unbelievable. When you
exactly.
watch him on the pitch, you think, is he going to be a Vieira? Because I did that with Mustafi as well, by the way, and thought we got a Cannavaro here, right? So you got to be realistic when
Next
you
back
watch it
in
on
battle.
YouTube. Exactly, yeah, right. So when you watch on YouTube, you got to be realistic. But I've seen this kid play. I've seen him. I saw him with my own eyes at the Emirates and thought, who is this kid? He's absolutely killing it. And our midfield, by the way, wasn't exactly no Muppets, was it, this season just gone? Erdegaard, Xhaka and Partey nearly won the league. So you're talking about a kid here who can absolutely dominate the midfield. And I think it'd be a very good signing. Now, at the time, on AFTV, they were doing a game where me and Curtis had to press crosses or ticks to the players that we were linked with. And I put a cross on Lavia, and I'll tell you why. Because I wanted Rice and Caicedo. Doesn't mean I don't want Lavia, because I'd have him tomorrow. But at the time, I wanted Rice and Caicedo. But I remember Curtis putting a tick and saying, I think he'd probably be our more realistic target, because I don't think we'll get both. And I think Rice and Lavia would be a fantastic couple of buys. Obviously, we've got Havertz in, which jury's out, and I'm not too amazed by. But, Erdegaard is there. I think that would be an upgrade on our midfield of the season just gone. At the moment, we need another body in there, man, if Xhaka and Partey are going, unless we keep Partey, of course. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on that with Arsenal, Lavia and Arsenal? Do you think he'd actually play more than perhaps you thought, or?
I think it depends on the system you're trying to play. I
Yeah,
think if Arsenal are going to go into this 3-2-2-4-1, whatever Man City are trying to play, then
yeah,
obviously him and Rice as the defensive partnership and the two sixes would be absolutely perfect. But if you're trying to go for a 4-3-3, realistically, I think Thomas Partey will probably have to go, and Rice and Lavia will probably be fighting for that number 6 because Lavia's not going to play as an 8. He's a 6. you can't play as that 8. Whereas obviously you did say Declan Rice can't play as an 8, but personally I wouldn't see him playing for as an 8 for Arsenal if he's going to play that Xhaka position. I think you'd need to go for a more natural number 8. But it's a difficult one with Jorginho as well, because if you do have both Declan Rice and Lavia before Partey leaves, it's like where would he possibly fit in? But then it depends on what Arteta wants to play. So I still think if Lavia wants to play minutes, it's probably going to be more Liverpool. But then if Arteta's going to say to him, look, this way you're going to play and you're going to play alongside Declan Rice, then obviously I think it's just going to go straight away. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I do think it depends on the system.
It does depend on the system, and it also depends on how it's been sold to Lavia, because he's going to be speaking to all these clubs and his agent's going to be speaking to these clubs. And if he says, look, you're going to come and play this Liverpool, we're not in the Champions League, but we are with a few more players going to go for the title next year and try and get as close to Kansas City with the right transfer targets. I think they could be back, Liverpool. With Arsenal, Champions League football, London, which everyone laughs at, but it does help. It does help. Biggest club in London, Champions League club in London, went for a title race, promising future, surrounded by players his age. He might look at that and think, yeah, do you know what? I really like that. That sounds just right up my street. And I kind of hope that's the case. Now, if we're going for Tchouaméni, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, Liam. I would obviously, of course, rather have Tchouaméni because he is at Real Madrid and he's killing it for France and club and country. But it doesn't mean for a minute that I would sign Lavia and go, what the hell are we doing here? Like, this is a kid
No,
who I think has
100%.
got so much potential, man. So I think it would be a great signing. Let's talk a little bit about Arsenal, because you've always been quite level-headed and you've not really got any bias towards or against Arsenal. So what have you made of us this summer? Because it's been a bit of a refreshing one for our fans, because we're now seeing players coming in free, it looks like already, within the first couple of weeks of the window, mate.
No, I do like the business. I really do. I do like the free players that come in. I think they're already kind of learning their lesson from last year with the injuries that happened to Zinchenko and Saliba. That kind of really cost you the league. And I said to you all season, Dan, that last year especially, that you were very lucky with injuries. That the fact you got so far in the season and
Yeah.
not one of your main players really got injured, and I think in the end it did really cost you. And I think getting players like Declan Rice in, Timber, Havertz, even though probably a lot of people are a bit don't know about Havertz, but personally I do think it's a good signing. I do really like
Okay.
Kai Havertz. I don't think he's ever been used properly. You know, he's always gone as a. I think he's more of a 10 or an 8, but
Mm-hmm.
seem to be using him as a 9, which you look at him and he's just not a natural striker. He's not someone you can rely on to score 20 goals a season. I don't think that's someone what he would do at Arsenal, but I do think he'd work quite well. I do like Arteta as a manager, as I said. I really like the way he's going to play, especially with Pep and stuff like that. But I do like the Timber signing as well, because I mean
Yeah,
Ben
I do.
White's a good player, but I do think Timber's levels ahead. Really, European experience as well. And that's the only thing I'm pretty going to be a bit worried about Arsenal, is a lot of these players haven't played Champions League football, like
Yeah.
your Ramsdales, your Ben White, your Gabriel, your Saliba, your Rice. Obviously, other players have, but I think that's
No, you're
Martinelli,
right. There's
Saka.
literally
You
only
know what I
there's
mean?
Jesus and Zinchenko, Tierney and Partey and Chaka that he's going. That is it. I'm sure. I'm sure that is it. So we haven't really got that many at
Yeah,
all.
I still think you need one position though, and I can't lie. It might be a bit controversial to Arsenal fans, but I'm going to say goalkeeper. I'm
Okay.
I do like Aaron Ramsdale. I'm just not. If you need someone to rely on, I don't think he's that type of keeper. He's very rash,
Interesting.
and he's made a few mistakes. No, he did cop you out a few times this season, but I don't think he's a Champions League level keeper. But I think the only thing that really got going on the side, that he's young, and he has done well for Arsenal. But I think if you want to go to that next level, then you do need a proper world class keeper, and that's what I think. It's a lot of teams out, like Man United. De Gea's kind of lost it now, and we're then being interested in Onana, and that might take him to the next level. But I think Rams is a good keeper. I just don't think he's world class like an Allison or anything like that. But That's what Arsenal fans are
I
debating
would
about. That's just
listen.
my bit of controversial opinion.
No, it's not. It's a good question, mate. And I personally believe Ramsdale is not an area that we need to concentrate on. Right, I would probably argue that Matt Turner. There's questions whether he's good enough to be cover for Ramsdale, but if you're comparing him to Allison and Edison, you're bang on. He's not world class. He's not like those two. But after that, I would say there's quite a few, not just Aaron Ramsdale, that are in that bracket. Emi Martinez, Aaron Ramsdale, Nick Pope, and a few goalkeepers in the Premier League that you could look at and go, yeah, who's actually better? I do think Ramsdale is better than Pickford. I do think he should be in England
Yeah,
number one now.
I do agree
But
with that.
I don't think it's crazy. I thought you were going to say centre forward. I didn't think you were going to say goalkeeper. I thought you were surprised
No,
because obviously
I
Jesus
really
got it.
like Gabriel Jesus. I really do. I just don't. I think the modernised striker has very much changed now. If you look at Harry Kane, I think he's just the striker you look at. Look, he does score 30 goals a season, but he is the absolute playmaker as well. The guys, but he's used to link up. And Nketiah's not the most what you call it, prolific goal scorer, but he is a
No,
great link up player, and that's where I think Arteta's been looking at with Saka and Martinelli have been the main goal scorers rather than Jesus being the main. But then, yet again, he was injured for 3 months, so it's like he was never a prolific goal scorer at Man City. He just needs to be down the end of other things. But I do think Jesus will be good for us, so that's why I don't think you're looking for a striker in this window at all. But then you'll see next season whether that's good or a bad
absolutely.
decision.
I'm with you. I don't see us getting a forward. I think we need one. I mean, listen, we need perfection, don't we, to beat Man City? So if someone's going to offer me an Osimhen or a Vlahovic or something that we haven't got, I'm going to say yes. But I do feel you're right. I think the other positions in midfield will be looked at. I'd like to see us try and get a player that's going to play across the front three, but I think Saka is just absolutely beasted last season. He needs a bit of a break, and I'm not so sure we've got any great cover
Yeah,
there in Reece Nelson or Vieira. Maybe Jesus has to play
yeah.
wide and Trossard or
Yeah,
something has to go in the middle. But
I'm very surprised he got offered a new deal recently, Nelson, especially for him as well. I thought he'd like to go out and play football, but obviously being on the
yeah,
bench and probably being on a lot of money probably will suit him. But then realistically, if Saka does get injured, is he good enough backup compared to Saka? Not at all. But then Nicolas Pepe still being there as well. I presume he'll leave this summer. Obviously Trossard, fantastic signing. I think he's an absolute class
yeah.
player. But I think that the one position you probably will need is someone who's willing to play backup as Saka and who's actually good enough to fill in if unfortunately he does get injured.
Yeah, man, it's still a lot of work to do at Arsenal. I can't lie, man. Still a lot of work to do. I've got to say that I am quite happy at the moment, but there's still a lot of work. There's still a lot of work, and I don't want it to stop at Arsenal right now. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's talk about a couple of other clubs very quickly. 77 million is the figure that Juventus want for Dusan Vlahovic, and Chelsea are very much interested from what I'm hearing. He was around 66, I think, that Juventus had paid for him, and he's had a bit of a nightmare there. Having said that, Juventus haven't really been in the best of places off the pitch, so I think there's a little bit unfair to judge him. He absolutely killed it in Serie A for Fiorentina. He was superb. And Arsenal were linked with him, and I did really, really want him, and I remember getting very frustrated when it didn't happen. Chelsea, Liam, are going to do a madness again, aren't they? They're getting rid of all of their players now, and it's looking like they haven't got any players, and they're going to go boom, 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 and probably spend another £400 or £500 million. Is he a player you think will be on his way to Chelsea?
Um, well, Todd Bowley, I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't be paying 77 million for Vlahovic. I think he was fantastic for Florentina and has done mediocrely well at Juventus, but then you don't know because Juventus have been pretty poor. I mean, they play a pretty dire set of football and play a formation that's 3-5-1-1, and Vlahovic is basically just excluded on his own. So it's yeah, I don't see the point when they just spent 35 million on Nicholas Jackson, which I think look, I think I'm not convinced by it. We were linked to him in January, and he failed a medical at Bournemouth, and since then he scored like 11 goals in 15 games. But just watching videos of him, he's not very prolific at all. He's very erratic in front of goal, and that's why I think Saints fans were very against signing him in the first place. But I don't see the point in them buying Vlahovic when they just brought Nicholas Jackson, especially with a player like Armando Broja coming back. I think he's next level. I think if Chelsea can keep him fit, then they won't need a striker. But then I just don't see the point in them splashing money again. Not especially when they got someone like Nkunku coming in. They've probably got other priorities that they need to settle on anyway.
Yeah, I kind of, the reason I'm going to say I disagree is because of Todd Bowley. I'd normally say any other club would go, yeah, I think we've got our players, but the Chelsea are nuts. Wouldn't surprise me, bro, and I'm not even lying or bantering. Wouldn't even surprise me if they stuck in 150 for Osimhen. That's how nutty this club are. They just go absolutely wild. They don't care about their financial fair play. They've got no idea what. I'd actually so as far to say I don't think Todd Bowley knows what he's doing. I think he's just literally just scattergun. We'll get them. Oh, who's he? Who's he? Oh, go on then. We'll take him. We'll take him. I don't think there's any plan there whatsoever, mate. I can't lie, and it wouldn't surprise me if they don't.
He said he stayed. He said he stepped back, didn't he? But he obviously hasn't.
Well, he's not going
to. I think they've done a fantastic job clearing out all their players, but and they've done that for a reason before 30th June because of how financial fair play will work.
Precisely.
If they didn't get rid of all those players, then they'd be in a bad situation. But I think people could say it's dodgy with the whole Saudi thing with them having Saudi investment with Todd Bowley and all their players going over there. People could think that's dodgy. People may not even notice the fact that Chelsea have Saudi investment. So, I mean, I just don't think they're a very well-run club at the moment. I think you can tell, even though obviously the whole thing with Abramovich and the whole war thing and stuff like that, obviously totally wrong, and obviously he shouldn't ever be an owner of a football club in London or wherever. But they were a very well-run club under him, and you can tell that the way they won 2 Champions Leagues and all the Premier League titles. But I just don't think Todd Bowley has a clue. I just think it's classic American. Use it as a franchise. They don't really care about the club. They just want to make the most money possible. And I think Chelsea probably, if they keep going like the way they are, they'll get run into the ground, and it'll be all his fault really. But I mean, I don't really know. I'm not convinced at all.
Yeah, I think Chelsea at the moment are a team that, with one game a week, should be expected. I mean, the expectation of top 4 if they're going to spend money like that again. I really do. You know, Pochettino is the player, the manager, should I say, that can give him a playing style. Whether they're going to get it or not, I have no idea. Guys, there's over 300 of you watching, and we haven't even hit 100 likes yet. What the hell's going on? Come on, peeps. Let's get us to 150. Come on. I always say 50%. Make sure you do me a favor. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Thank you so much, all of you, for getting us to 10K last night. That's an amazing target, an amazing achievement. So thank you so much. And make sure you do me a favor and go follow Liam as well on his Twitter handle and the Saints View as well. Listen, let's talk Amrabat. This is a player who apparently Manchester United are looking at now. Player alike at the World Cup, I thought he was excellent. And against West Ham in the final and Fiorentina, I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. I can't lie. This will be a good signing for Man United, Liam, I think.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I think he's at a decent age. What is he, 26, isn't he? 25, 26?
I think so, yeah.
I think, Casemiro's aging, and it's probably a good signing for Manchester United. It's one of those ones where it's probably the cheaper deal, but it's definitely probably the better deal than trying to sign someone like Moises Caicedo or Frankie de Jong, who's going to cost you a buckload of money and might not even play each week. And I think they've done that with Mason Mount. I think I don't know what the hell they're doing, spending 60 million on him, but I do think he's a great player. I do like Mason Mount, whether I think he suits the Ten Hag the system, but 60 million quid with a guy left, 1 year left on his contract, it's just silly business, and they should have been waiting until next summer when he's a free agent.
Yeah, fair play to you. I don't know, Mason Mount for me and Havertz. How the hell Chelsea got 125 million out of both of them? I mean, they've done a really good job there, haven't they? Fair play to them. Even Kovacic, who I think is a good player, going for that much money is a crazy,
He only
crazy.
had a year left on his deal as well. So
Exactly,
I
it's
mean,
good money, man. It's
they've
good
done
money.
well. They've done
They have
well.
done well. They have, and let's see what they do with it. I'm expecting Caicedo bids to go in. It wouldn't surprise me if they put in a bid for Lavia as well. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if they go for Vlahovic for this 77 million. I don't think that's a Todd Bowley. That's much at all. So it wouldn't surprise me if they go and sort out their side, Chelsea, and then they've got one game a week under Poch and just see what happens. Where do you see this season at the moment? It's very, very difficult, Liam, because there's a transfer window that's not closed yet, and there's so much more action to happen. But the way that things are looking right now, where's your head at in terms of a team that could challenge Man City? A lot of people are suggesting that Liverpool be back. Some people thinking Arsenal will strengthen and be there again. Others saying Newcastle will go mad, do a madness and get themselves right back up there with a chance. And some people think that it could be a bit of a shock and maybe a Chelsea or United could go with the right signings and get things sorted. Where's your head at in terms of this Premier League season?
It, it's gonna be crazy. Let's say that. Challenging for the title. It's like all the I got to say fair play to the top six sides or your classic top six sides. They have gone for it and they're getting their business done early. You know, Newcastle signing Tonali, 70 million euros. Good signing that. Good signing where he'll fit in the Newcastle midfield as an 8 or a 6 or. But I mean, Man City going out and spending like 85 million on Gavardio and I mean, it's just mental. But I do really like the way Liverpool going with McAllister and Sludgerby and maybe getting Lavia. I still think they need a few positions with not being able to really rely on Trent as a right back and Robbo getting older and their centre backs kind of getting caught out a lot last season, relying on Alisson. So I think if they could probably get a 1 or 2 defenders, I really think they could push Man City. But I think the only team I can really look at pushing Man City at the moment is probably Arsenal. And I think they're only just getting started with the signings. I do think you could still get a few more players, and I do really think that Arsenal could push, and I hope they do because I really wanted them to win the league last season. I really did, but I still think City will win the league, but I think it'll be a lot tighter than it has been.
Yeah, I expect the clubs that didn't turn up this season to turn up this season. And what I mean by that is Arsenal and City, if it weren't for Arsenal last season, it would have been a very boring season, wouldn't it? I mean, it would have been Man City winning it at like Christmas pretty much.
Yeah.
So I think that it was good for the league. And I'm not saying that just as a gooner. I think that's facts. I think it will be maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 that go for Manchester City this time because I think they all have to. I think they all know what they need to do. They've got to go and try and push as close as they can, man.
No, definitely, I do agree with you, Dan. But I do think if Man United can get themselves a striker and a centre back and probably maybe one more midfielder and a full back, I do think they could probably push all the way as well. Because I do think Ten Hag's got some work in there, but then I do think Arteta's got some work at Arsenal as well. And Jurgen Klopp's been the one pushing Pep for years, and you've got a new era at Chelsea and. Tottenham under Angie Postil. Oh, I can't remember his second name. I don't want to butcher that either, but I do think they could be a pretty good side as well. They're doing their business quite nicely with bringing in James Maddison and a new keeper from Empoli. Looks to be a good young keeper. And if they get a few more signs in as well, like looks like it does with a few centre backs and some midfielders, attackers that you never know they could be pushing for top 4. So I think in terms of the big teams, it's definitely going to be probably one of the best seasons we might have, but from 8th and below, I do think the lack of quality in the Premier League is dipping, and that's why I'm kind of not too upset that we got relegated because I do think the bottom teams haven't really been doing any business this summer at all, and it's been quite lackluster. But then I don't know whether that's because these clubs are quite settled, but no, I do think the top half of the Premier League is going to be cooking this year. Whether the bottom half is going to be burning or not, I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Listen, to close, I'm going to ask you this question from Amir. He says, "Big up Dan and Liam. A question to Liam: do you think that Southampton will come back up the Premier League next season?"
I want to say yes, but I really don't know. I'm relatively happy if we get top six. But this championship season is probably going to be one of the best seasons you're ever going to see. And I think a lot of people will be watching it instead of the Premier League because the three teams that come up from Sheffield from League One are massive, and the three teams that went down are massive. So I think it's going to be tight because there's a lot of good teams up there, like Leicester doing business with Harry Winks and Connor Cody, who a lot of people could say they're good signings, but for me, I'm not too convinced. There's a reason that Harry Winks hasn't been playing football for the last few years, and there's a reason why Wolves wanted to get rid of him. A reason why Everton didn't sign him. So, but then again, probably a good championship signing. But whether this new Man City assistant coach is going to do well or not, but I'm really happy with Russell Martin, and I think it just depends what our squad looks like at the end of the window. But I do think we have a very, very high chance of getting promoted, yes.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make about Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday coming up, and obviously Leeds and Leicester coming down. I mean, I never had Leicester going down at the start of the season last year at all. I thought Southampton and Leeds could have been flirting with relegation, but I didn't actually have either of those to go down either, which is mad, really. But there we go. It's one of those. I think I predicted at the start before a ball was even kicked, I had Fulham, Bournemouth, and I think it was Everton going down, which is just mad. I think I got all three of them wrong. It's crazy. It
No,
really is crazy.
no, I did have Bournemouth, Forest, and Leeds to go down. I had us getting 16th, so I
Yeah.
got one, but I don't think any person could literally say, "Yeah, I
So hard to
predicted Leicester
predict,
to
isn't
go
it?
down."
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so hard to predict, though, isn't it? Like even now,
it is right.
everyone's going to go. I think Luton will go straight back down. I think Sheffield United will go straight back down, and I think maybe
And
Forest
yeah,
or Bournemouth might
and
have a
Burnley go
problem.
straight back down. Yeah, they all stay
Yeah,
up and stuff like
yeah,
that. And
exactly,
Everton,
mate.
Palace, and bloody someone else goes down. You think,
You
Christ's
can't
sake.
predict it, man. You cannot predict it. I'm going to put this quickly up because Fred's asked it a couple of times. Dan, would you take Zaha on a free? I think we could do better than Zaha, but I also think we could do a hell of a lot worse. And I kind of feel like the Zaha ship has sailed, if I'm honest. I think a couple of years ago when Arsenal were interested, he's a massive, massive gooner. I know that is a fact. He absolutely loves Arsenal. So that would be good because obviously you need that in your team as well. But if you had a choice now of we're going to sign nobody or Zaha, I would take Zaha because I do think that he's an upgrade on Reece Nelson. I do think he's an upgrade on Eddie and Nketiah. So that is definitely one that I would take. But if I had my choice, I would go for other targets. That's just me. I think Zaha at 30, 31, I think he is now. He's got a couple of years and that'll be him done. What's your thoughts on that, Liam? Just quick.
I think Arsenal should be going different ways. Like you said, I think a few years ago was probably when he was in his prime. It was probably the perfect opportunity to get Zaha. But yet again, Palace were asked for a lot of money. But a lot of people think 80 million. Zaha's not worth that. Yeah, he's not worth it, but he's worth that to Crystal Palace, and that's what a lot of these teams don't understand. That when you're a small club and you've got a player as valuable as Zaha, like we have Ward-Prowse and Lavia and West Ham have Declan Rice, these players aren't going to be sold on the cheap. You're not going to be getting these players for 40 million when they're worth a lot more to the club. And that's why someone like Rice is 105 million. That's why Lavia is going to be 50 million to us because that's how much they're worth to us. That's how much of a player they are. And it's very difficult to get these sort of players now when these clubs aren't willing to lose them unless they need the money. Like us with Lavia, we don't need the money, but if someone wants to come in and pay 50 million, then we're going to let him go because he deserves it. But yeah, again, I think Zaha is probably he's better off going elsewhere than Arsenal. He's not going to play realistically, and at his age now, it's probably better off that Arsenal go for a youngster who could potentially play in the years to come.
Listen, I think you're talking sense, in fact, and I know my family actually really likes Zaha. My mum in particular absolutely loves Zaha, and she's like, I think he'd be quality at Arsenal. Listen, he's a good player, he's a top player, but I kind of agree with where you're at there. Listen, mate, we're going to close it from there. Thank you so much for jumping on, bro. Listen, shout out your Twitter and your Insta and your podcast, mate.
No, so my Twitter name is Liam Whitehorn, as it says on the dash here, and the same as my Instagram. And obviously, I do bits on the Saints View as well on YouTube. We should be hopefully be running back up next year for the championship. So do give us a follow. And obviously, Dan, appreciate it coming on. Hopefully, it won't be too long before I can before if we do get promoted.
Well, listen. I hope you do, man. I really do, and I mean that as well. Because not only would it be great to see you on the channel, but I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Southampton due to the amount of top quality players that you've produced over the years. If you were to put a 1 to 11 of Southampton players, my God, you'd
I think it'd be
Gareth
very
Bale's
difficult
and
to
mate. I mean, wow,
Chamberlain,
Sadio, like
Walcott,
the players
Mane,
that,
Lallana,
yeah,
Lovren,
bro,
Van Dijk,
Van
Shaw,
Dijk,
Klein.
crikey.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Luke
mental.
Shaw,
It's mental,
Klein. You have
mate.
a back line: Luke Shaw, Klein, Van Dijk, and Lovren. Wow.
Alderweireld,
Alderweireld, yeah.
Fraser
Wanyama,
Foster in his prime. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Wanyama,
crazy, man.
Schneiderlin, like Mane,
Lallana, Oxlade
Lallana,
Chamberlain,
Walcott, Oxlade Chamberlain.
uh,
Who was the other striker that
Graz-
you had?
Graziano Pella,
Pella, yeah.
Lambert.
Ricky
Uh,
Lambert, yeah, he was up there. And
it's mental, mate.
James
Absolutely
Beattie, he
mental.
was quality.
Yeah,
James Beattie at Liverpool.
Billy Sharp.
Be sharp, mate. You've had some
Uh,
top quality, man. You really have. You
yeah,
can make a real good 11 out of those, can you?
yeah.
Gareth
We've
Bale,
had some,
obviously.
we've had some
It's
exciting
mad.
times, definitely.
Well, listen, I hope they're yet to come for you, bro. I really do. Listen, we're gonna leave
Hopefully,
it
mate.
there. Yeah, man. I hope for you, man. I hope for your sake that you do. We're gonna leave it there, guys. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Make sure you do me a favor. Make sure you smash a like on this on your way out and subscribe to the channel. The click of 2 buttons is absolutely free and it does the channel a hell lot of good. Make sure you go follow Liam as well on his Twitter handle and over at the Saints View. Also, we will see you next time. People, take it easy and up the Arsenal. Laters.
Cheers, guys.